the truth about feminism. I've been having guys lately telling me, bro, these feminist men, they're trying to team up against us, and women only care about each other. Women only care about helping other women. It's their own group preference and all kinds of stuff like that, right? And I want to really break down feminism. For any men and for women who are listening, if there are any, I want you to know how badly you're getting played by men when you choose to be a feminist. Here's how it works, right? So feminism was funded by the Rockefellers. There's tons of evidence on the internet to prove my argument. If you just Google Rockefeller and then feminist or feminism right after, you'll get all the information you need on basically how this works. So basically, feminism was started by men, okay, rich white men, the men that women, for the most part in America, are raised to despise, are the same men who started this group that you were dumb enough to be tricked into following. So feminism was started by men, essentially, to basically break up the family unit, separate men from women, destroy the nuclear family, right? So that you can tax everybody. See, back in the day, men worked, men made all the money, and men paid their taxes. Men handled the finances, right? So when you only have one member of the household making the financial decisions, being the man, the logical man, you get less tax money, and men are generally better at managing money than women. This may trigger some women. This is just reality. Men are much better at handling finances, handling money, budgeting than women are. So the government gets much less money when it's just men paying taxes and when it's just men managing the money. So what does feminism come do? Feminism, which was started by white men, comes and tells women you're being depressed, having a job is so much fun, which it's not. You can be independent, you can make your own money, you don't have to rely on him. You can have the best of both worlds. You could have unlimited sex with as many guys as you want, and you can have all the money in the world, which is not true. So what happens? They trick women into leaving the household. Women end up getting shitty jobs. And now that men and women are both working and there's an oversaturation of people in the job market, wages go down. So now both men and women are making less money while also creating more money for the economy or for the government, for the system. They're being taxed more. All right. Now you're both paying taxes. You're both paying your 40% income tax. So you're both working. Neither of you are happy. You don't have the family anymore. Your kids have to go to daycare, so you have to pay for daycare. Now you need 2 cars, right? Men and women both need cars. So now the car industry goes up. Everything, it's all to make money. It's destroying the nuclear family to make money. Essentially, women are working office jobs, paying taxes, paying for all sorts of things that they didn't need when they had a family, right? When back in the day, when it was just men working, because it was just men in the market, in the workforce, companies could afford to just pay men a lot more, and they could cover all of the financial needs for a family of 4 or 5. Back in like the 50s, a man could work and support a family of 4 easily off his one salary, and take care of the whole family. They didn't have to send their kids to daycare. They didn't have to outsource parenting, right? Stuff like that. So it's all designed to extract money from men and women, to tax everybody, essentially. So women believe they're being empowered, right? Go me, feminist, whatever the fuck, but you don't understand. This same group that you're fighting for, you think you're fighting these oppressive men, you're lashing out. You're lashing out at the men at the bottom who really have no power. Meanwhile, the men at the top, who run everything, are the ones who are funding the group that's telling you to hate men. You're literally being played. You're a pawn. For any women listening who are feminists, you're basically serving the man when you're running away from the nuclear family and just working and paying taxes, right? On top of that, feminists really don't give a fuck about each other. Women, and this is for the guys listening too. Mostly for the guys. Guys think, women, they have their own group preference. They look out for each other. It's us against them. That's not really true. Women only do this own group preference thing to a certain extent. See, women know they're weak, so they stick together, they huddle together out of necessity, not out of love for each other. Women really just use each other when they team up in things. Women use and discard each other all the time. There's really no loyalty among women. And women stick together up until the point where they're competing against each other. So they'll fight together in feminism because they think they're all going to get jobs or whatever. But then if they get those jobs, or it gets to a point where they all want maybe a certain man, they will now start stabbing each other in the back to get that man or to get that job. They team up to a point until they have to compete with each other. So it's really just like they use each other as a stepping stone up until they get to a point where now it's woman versus woman. Suddenly they're not sticking together anymore. Suddenly they'll do each other dirty in order to get, you know, whatever opportunities they want. So there's really no loyalty in feminism. On top of that, and my mentor, Warren Lance, talked about this. Shout out to Warren Lance. Go check out his YouTube channel. He talks about how if feminists really cared about each other, they wouldn't let each other run around and sleep around with different men because of the damaging effects that has on a woman, taking in all those different dicks, taking birth control, drinking liquor, doing all of this self-destructive behavior that a woman's body cannot physically, mentally, or spiritually handle, right? So if feminists really cared about women, they would tell them, they would educate each other about the womb imprint, which is essentially every man that goes inside a woman, essentially sexually, becomes a part of her spiritually, mentally. That adds on to her psychological baggage. That adds on to her stress. That adds on to her inability to trust and bond with a man. When she sleeps around and men pump and dump her and they fuck her and they never call her again and all this shit happens, it ruins her ability to love and trust a man. If feminists really cared about each other, they would prevent each other from sleeping around. They'd say, okay, yeah, we're going to fight for equal opportunities career-wise. We're going to make our money, but we're also going to protect ourselves from getting played by men. And we're going to hold out sexually until we find a man that's serious about us and is serious about building with us. But feminists don't warn each other about that because they don't really give a fuck about each other. It's just using other women until they can get to an opportunity or whatever, and then they start competing and backstabbing each other because they all want to be at the top, right? The thing is, feminists listening, you're never going to get to the top because the top of feminism is white men, is these Rockefellers, is these JP Morgans. It's rich old white men who run America. They are at the top of feminism, and you're never getting their jobs. You're never going to be in their position because men can't even get into their position. The average man will never be in that position. There's no way in hell the average woman would be in that position. So you're really just running in a hamster wheel that's sucking the money and the blood out of you, you know, through taxation when you are a feminist. It's men who started it. It's men who run it. You've been sold a lie. You've been duped into working for the enemy. Your real ally is a loyal, loving man who wants to have a family with you. That's the only person who can give you true peace and happiness. Your enemy is this so-called rich white man, you know, but it's not who you think it is. It's not the manager at your job. It's not the white guy who runs, you know, the little business you work for. It's the Rockefeller types. It's that sort of rich white man. It's the rich white man that oppresses everybody. You know, this particular rich white man oppresses poor white men, you know, oppresses middle-class white men. These are the men that oppress the whole fucking country, and they've tricked you into being their bitch, into being their pawn, into being their slave through feminism, having you think you're fighting against that power when actually you're working for that very system. You know, that's the truth about feminism.